Hey, drop.
All right, guys, next up, we are pleased to be joined by Chad Cooper of the Virginia Mountaineer. Chad, thank you for joining us today. And what we was wanting to do today is to just look back at Chad's career and everything and how he got to where he is today. Chad, you want to start us off by telling us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, man. I come from a pretty rich sports family,
Yeah.
if I could say. My brother, he was a star at Hurley, Mark Cooper, back in the 80s, mid to late 80s. And, so I got to enjoy all that. I remember even when he was in college, I was the water boy at Clinch Valley.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty neat. But, I just fell in love with sports, probably through
From a
watching
very early
him
age.
and, the success they had too. It was so amazing back in the late 80s, especially when Hurley was going to state during that time. They was loaded with Mark and Keith Justice
Yep.
and David Brown and Bill Christian and Alex Clevenger was a year before, but when they went to state, I just remember the excitement the town brought, and I was like, I always want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And then then during football season at the Cliff, man. You remember how crowded it was? Like standing room only every day.
Oh, yeah.
And Buchanan Hurley had a big band at that time, and they'd play Dixie, and just the atmosphere and stuff, and it made me fall in love with sports right off the bat. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
my dad, he played during his day, and
Very athletic.
he said he was pretty good. So
Everybody you talk to, that of course that's way before my time too. But everybody you talk to would always tell the same thing. That's where Mark would get his athleticism. Of course, everybody knows Mark gets his gab from Tiny.
exactly,
So,
exactly,
the
the gift.
But I guess growing up, participating in Little League, probably baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah, so after from kindergarten, I started playing basketball, and played on a little Smurfs team. There was about 20 of us out there, and then we used to play on the big O's. Now they play on the little O's, which I like better.
Yeah.
I like that better, but gives them a chance to actually make a shot. So I played Smurfs. Then first grade, I started playing football. And be honest with you, this guy right here was one of my Little League coaches back in the day. So,
Wow.
Sixth and seventh
That
grade.
really makes you feel good.
It was
Sixth and
crazy,
seventh grade.
and learned a lot from this guy. I swear. I mean,
Now, how old are you again?
I know.
He was my Little League
Now
basketball
Teddy,
coach.
bless his heart, Teddy would sit behind us behind me, right behind the bench. And I'll never forget this. And it was like third game of the season, whatever. And all this, I was new to all this coaching gig, and it was like I was really having I was struggling really because he had all these kids and I was the only one on the bench. And Chad was always like the coach on the floor, give me the ball, get out of the way,
Exactly.
that kind of stuff, And when and Teddy didn't like it. Teddy wasn't about that. He was about team ball. He said, you're letting Chad do the, it's got to be team oriented. And I was like,
You would not see nobody do that nowadays.
Teddy was a different breed.
He was.
But
He
when I
really
remember
was.
this like it was yesterday. I mean, he could tell at halftime of one of the games he came over, he put his arm around me. He goes, you have no idea what you're doing, do you?
That's that.
He did. And I said, Teddy, I don't. He said, can I give you some advice? I said, yeah. And he gave me some advice. And sure enough, we came out in the second half. I think we still lost, but it was a better second half.
No idea what you're
He did. He told me. He put his arm around me. He said, you have no idea what you're doing. And I was honest with him.
He had that tough love, and but he was so knowledgeable. He understood that. Like I had a lot more to give, and that he understood how the sport is a team.
Chris,
You can have that one
I don't know if it's gonna
individual,
affect it,
but
maybe fix that mic or
Maybe put it on this
come back to the
right
words
side.
point to
Right
the face
side?
a little
Yeah.
bit better.
let's see.
I was afraid that might be not picking up good, Rodney.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it
How
doesn't.
about that? Right
There we go.
We're
That should
good
be
to
good.
go.
Yeah.
But yeah, he knew the game, so he knew that it takes 5 to play, and you're as good as your teammates, and you got to get them involved, and learn that at an early age too. You know, and we was pretty good. You know, even in high school, which Michael, you know as much as anybody
Oh, yeah.
about our high school years, because you was right there, a part of it.
I was literally right beside
Right
you
there,
down
yeah.
on the end of the bench.
Exactly, right there. I mean, on the buses everywhere. I mean, you was up
Chad,
through the whole thing.
Chad was like the assistant water boy with me.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd have my runts and stuff in my mouth, and then every now and then Harold would be like, "Hey, come on now," but you have to try to spit them out.
How many times did I say, "Who made that pass?"
Exactly,
And,
and because you've always had just a different way of looking at sports and just that statistical mindset, and I always loved that about you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you would take stats, and we would know, I mean, from how many fouls that we had at the end of the year. I mean, and it was so super helpful. You know where you need to improve, and
Every team needs that.
yeah, they do. They really.
Somebody
I
that's
remember
really that good.
One thing I remember that was odd about that is, do you remember like there was a stat that I don't think I've ever seen anyone else keep that Harold made me keep? Deflections.
Yes.
Do you remember deflections?
That was huge.
Because he wanted you to, and there was another one too. He actually got me to keep stats on how many passes were made each trip down the floor, because he wanted, before a shot was taken, he wanted a certain number of passes to be made.
Yeah, you know, Coach Horn, I loved Coach Horn's philosophy. You know, his motion offenses, even his own offenses, you know, everything was just, you know, they was crisp, they was quick action, and you know, you could, you know, have a lot of success off of it. And as far as the deflections, you know, his ball you man-to-man defense, you know, we always had those hands active.
Have to be in the passing lane.
Have to. You know, it was more like a triangle defense. You know, we would guard our man, but when the ball's passed away from us, we're sliding over to help out. And,
sliding over.
Help defense was his big thing from him. But yeah, you know, even in like Little League and stuff, you know, I played football, basketball, loved baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan still today. Actually, if I could have hit a curveball, I really wish I would have spent more time in baseball. But you know, so I played all those sports growing up, and Dad coached a lot of them. And you know, by that time, Mark, he was all the way at Clinch Valley and having his basketball career there, and then you know, in high school. Man, we had a really good group of guys.
I think it never got to where it should have.
I think he underachieved.
Yeah, exactly. We very
underachieved.
I think he was really super athletic, but I do think some egos. You know, and it wasn't a whole team thing. You had about three.
Yeah.
I mean, if the truth be told, and I think that really brought the team orientation down to where that it was just like, okay, let's just get through the season.
We never really. Gosh, you're exactly right, and we all felt that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you had Heath Eastep, Robbie, Andy Atkins, Jason Eastep, Aaron Justice, me, Denny Dillo. You know, just we had even
Rogers.
Roger was
Rogers.
Well, yeah. Well, then we had Keith Workman for a little bit, which was
that's before he hurt his knee, right?
That was before he hurt his knee, and you know, I think you know, back. My junior year was probably when we had the most talent, and you know, we did have we had a lot. Was senior loaded. They was all holdbacks pretty much, and you know, but we never could get past that Hayside and you know, Honaker. Well, we split with Honaker every year, but Hayside and then you know, Council ended up pretty good. Garden was tough. Yeah, they was. We luckily got them a few times, but and Whitewood, but. Our district was so tough back in the day. I mean, you look how many times that Hayside and Council had teams, even back in the Mike Ratliff days and in the early 90s, that they, you know, never could get out of sub-state. And
Point guard play during that time was really good. You had Bostic at Hayside, you had L.D. Johnson at Garden. I mean, it
Matt
was
Presley at Council. You know,
that's very good ball players right there.
Oh, yeah, and I think that was actually one thing that kind of hurt us too. And this is no knock on Jason or Denny or even you, but it was all of you guys was a little bit undersized for what you was having to defend at the point guard position.
Exactly, and. You know, but as far as we had good wings, you know, we had some good athletes there, but
with RJ, Iron, Andy,
but you know, we didn't shoot the ball very well like we should have.
Yeah.
You know, we had 2 1,000-point scorers on the team, but
Yeah.
you know, we never did. We went and beat Pound the year that they actually won the region.
Yeah.
We beat them in a tournament up there at Pound. I ended up spending the rest of that night in the hospital. I had muscle spasms, back spasms and stuff. Had IVs. I was dehydrated from that tournament. But
well, that's something I noticed about your game is, you know, of course, everybody that has followed the history of basketball in our county, well, they know Mark. They know, you know, what he achieved in basketball, in football. But, you know, 1,000-point scorer, all the accolades. And then you come along, and it's like, okay, do I feel? And I think you realized early on, I can't feel his shoes,
right.
But I can wear my own.
Yeah, and that's something I knew what I could do. I knew that I was never going to be 6 foot. I was never going. Well, Mark wasn't tall, but you know he was at least 5'9". You know
He was quick.
He was quick. You know, I didn't have that speed. You know, but I always felt like I was the smartest person on the floor, no matter who was playing.
Yeah.
And that was in any sport we played because I felt like just the knowledge I had for the sport, and even today, I mean, when I see somebody not set a pick strong, you know, it drives me crazy because, you know, the details of how to play the game and stuff like that, I was really big on. And I always soaked that stuff up when Harold or Joey Blanchett was he was, a lot of people don't realize how smart a basketball mind he was, you know.
Defensively.
Yeah.
You know, this
Smart,
is no knock
really
on Harold at all,
smart.
but with having Joey there was like having 2 head coaches.
It really
I mean,
was.
You
felt that too.
Yeah, he was exceptional.
Yeah, and you know, even when Mark was at Hurley and with Tyler and Austin and going on those state runs, you know, Joey was, you know, right there with them and participated in that. So, you know, it was a special time during those, you know, late '90s and you know, early 2000s. And
so then moving on from that, you went on to college.
Yeah, I went to UV at Wise and tried to play football, you know, and again, undersized,
You had quite a few with you too from Hurley, if I remember correctly.
We had the most players from one school. Me, Greg, Greg Tester, Keith Workman, Donald Griffey. Me, Donald, and Greg, we all roomed together, you know, so that was pretty neat. And you know, Keith, he was always with us. But that was a great experience. Unbelievable coach under Coach Ramsire, and we coached Bill Wassam. He ended up being UV's head coach later on, but he was our linebackers coach, and we form tackled every single day, and he loved it, and he was just, you know, he'd break down with us, and he loved us to hit, and we was pretty good. We was actually started getting ranked in the nation at one point. Then we went down to Georgetown, Kentucky, and got beat by 60. And then after that,
very humbling.
Very humbling.
Rankings dropped a little bit after that.
Rankings dropped after that, and you know, the season didn't end up turning out. But played 1 year there, and you know, honestly, my heart wasn't in it. You know, I regretted not. I was kind of decent at tennis in high school, and I felt like I started to regret not, you know, because I had the opportunity to play tennis at Wise, and I didn't take that opportunity, and you know, I started messing up. Didn't go to class. Had a good time.
At that point, what was your career aspiration? Did you want to go into teaching?
Coaching. I didn't care about teaching. I just coaching, and you know, that's not the right mindset for any teacher that's had. But you know, that's what I was going to go into, was teaching. Just to have the opportunity to coach. So. Yeah, and I wasn't going to classes or whatever. Anyway, Teddy Cooper showed up one day and said, "Get your stuff, we're coming to Hurley." So that's how I ended up leaving at Wise. But you know, that was a hard time for me. And you know, you experience, you know, drugs and alcohol for the very first time, and you get away from the house, and your priorities start going anywhere else. You know, I played a whole year, which I came in spring, played that fall, and went through another spring before, and just left that summer, didn't come back. And so it was kind of a year of football, but, you know, came back, got in a teaching program through Virginia Intermont, and ended up getting my teaching degree and stuff. And you know, I actually got to coach. You know, I was assistant baseball coach at Hurley for some time.
Under Wayne?
Yeah, no, under Mark England.
Now, see, Mark don't get a lot of credit. Mark's smart. He's super smart guy.
Studies.
He does.
He can get on the internet, and the guy can just, you know, which you can learn so much from, details and stuff. And the guy studies it. He is super
He's
intelligent.
the same way as basketball. X's and O's, he knows his stuff.
Grundy's got a good asset there, having him on the bench. I know.
Old Bebo.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Old Bebo.
Old Bebo, love Old Bebo.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good.
Old Bebo.
Did Mark ever tell you how he got his nickname?
No.
Now, this is coming from Mark, so take it for what it's
Mark
worth.
Cooper, you
Now, he could have just told me this as, just keep it G-rated. I don't know.
Right.
But they were all going somewhere. They all went to college together. They
Yeah.
were all going, and they were waiting on Mark England to come out from wherever. And it looked like Mark England just came like he literally just got out of the bed or whatever, and he just looked real shabby. And Cooper, he looks at Brad Hoover up standing there. He goes, "Won't you look at that big Bebo coming there?" And from that point on, it stuck. Now I don't know if that's exactly right or not, but that's what he told me.
It fits perfect. I mean, you can't. I remember when they was at college it was Quinnsville at that time. Tells you how old Mark is. So Mark, literally, I would be second, third grade. He would actually take me. He would come in on Fridays, pick me up, and take me back for the weekend. And during the summers, I stayed down there with him, and that bunch was crazy. But he would put me on his lap when we leave Papa early. He'd set me on his lap, and I would drive the Wise on his lap. He'd give it the gas and stuff, but and I'd have to ask him if we could pass anybody on the 4-lane. But so by the time I drove the Wise, I'd done drove that thing probably 100 times. But,
Wow.
That was hope no.
I wonder what Teddy's feelings would have
Oh
been
my
about
gosh! And then he would always make me try to lie to Mom and Dad, and he'd tell me the RPMs was the miles per hour. 'Cause it was just.
I can hear it.
We had good times.
Don't worry
down there.
about it. Just keep going.
Mark England was funny though. He was always like the daddy to me when Mark would bring me down there. I'd go down there and Mark England would be the one that always made sure I ate and made sure I was safe. So
that's like a role reversal.
Exactly right, 100%. But yeah, we love Mark England. But yeah, I coached under him. Then Greg asked me to help out with football. Did that for a while. Me and Pistol had a good trip at Montcalm one time. I backed the driver's ed car into another vehicle, and then the security guard came running over, and I said, "Don't worry, I know both of these." And he was like, "Okay," and then we got out of there, but didn't do any damage. But I think we beat Montcalm that night too. But that was fun. I'm telling you, I've been involved in a lot of funny things involved with sports over back in the county. But gosh, what a rich history we have,
Oh yeah.
You talk about your brother Mark. You talk about your brother Mark. I remember when Mark came back out of college, come to Grundy.
Oh yeah.
And coach.
Yep.
I was on a JV team.
Really?
And he coached me his first year.
Wow. And he was teaching at PV Dennis at that time.
Yeah, that's before him and Connie Joe got married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He lived with Rick Ward
Yes.
up in that little hall. I used to go there and say, and Lord, I practiced so many times with Grundy's JV over those years. And then when he went to Whitewood and was coaching varsity at Whitewood, I'd go over there and practice with them.
So you boys been around a lot. I'm telling you, Cooper boys have seen a lot of stuff.
We really have. Mark's been everywhere, and that's why I think that, he was such a great fit for Southern Gap High School because, he's been really everywhere besides council, unfortunately, but council, it's not coming yet.
He's actually got something in common with Roger Rife there, don't he? He's been everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, now he actually played under Roger
Yeah.
for a while.
He did.
Yeah.
Roger was there Mark's, I think, freshman and
year.
sophomore year.
Yeah.
And then
the last 2 years
yeah.
was under Harold. Yeah.
And then I got to sit down with Coach Rife the other day and for about 5 hours at his house and interview him. Unbelievable, man, the stuff I got on it. Well, I don't even know how to even start putting that into an article, but it was such an awesome interview. And he was talking about, probably shouldn't tell him, but the reason why he left Hurley to go to Garden was for money. He told us
that.
Did he tell you all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First ever NIL deal.
Exactly. That was the first. Maybe it probably wasn't the first. I'd say back in the day.
I never knew anything like it existed.
Yeah,
he said that it was like a
don't.
stipend or something that the booster club had given.
That does show to how good Roger was with kids.
Yeah.
Because he left one school that was very successful.
Very successful.
And he left, and then he went to another school and was still very successful.
Exactly.
And he, and at two different sports,
which
is what he did at Hurley. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that trickled down into the other kids, like with Mark and and all those, Dave Brown, and all those very successful themselves.
Yeah.
And then to your point, is that you got to see every bit of this.
Yeah, I did.
Probably, I'm going to say, even though you were around Mark, but we're probably talking literally 2 decades of sports that you got to witness.
Yeah.
From some of it from the, behind the bleachers, and some of it on the bleachers, and then some of it behind the whistle.
Yeah, and then now, for a living, I get to cover it,
Yeah.
which is super awesome.
That's something
Was this
people-
something that you ever thought about?
Never. Like I said, coaching, teaching, I thought, I have to teach coach. That's my mindset. So I figured I would do that forever. And then I realized I couldn't do that, because of, at that time, it was before I found the Lord, and thank God for that.
What was you going into teaching?
Just anything.
Just like general education.
General education. I ended up getting like an interdisciplinary studies degree, which is like maybe a pre-K through something.
Yeah, like
but
through
I really I wanted to be a high school gym teacher at one point, but then I realized that you have to take more classes to be a health and PE teacher. So I was like, that ain't for me.
So you settled for driver's ed.
I did. I wish. Even driver's ed is a lot more stuff undoubtedly.
Oh, yeah?
So, but English and history was what I was certified for. And then I taught at, the vocational school for a little while. I ended up teaching GED there for a year or so, and that's when I was coaching at Hurley. And then I ended up getting a job at the Virginia Wilderness Institute, and I taught there for 3 years. Had a pretty successful career there, staff of the year through the Virginia Marine Institute, which is the whole the juvenile detention center things that it was under, and enjoyed that time.
That was through a grant program for a while, wasn't it?
It was, and then
as far as keeping the doors open.
It was, and
God had big plans for you there because he put you in the right path right there.
He did.
It started right there.
He did.
Chad.
Yeah.
It kept me involved with the youth, and I think once you lose your style and stuff with the youth, or your where they're at, then you lost them. But there I understood those kids, what they was going through, and I knew I wasn't perfect at that time either. So man, there was a lot.
Sometimes that's the type of person that they need.
They really they felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
You spoke on your you just finding God in your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to finding, a lot of people don't know. And I told Michael this. A lot of people don't know your background and what you overcame, and kids out there that may be dealing with some of these same familiar things need to hear it, from somebody that's okay. Listen, it can be overcome. There's things that we all have in our life that are just tough to deal with, but we can overcome. And of course, now you did have a good support cast.
100%.
Your mom, and I swear she's one of the best women God ever graced this county with.
Yes.
Love her heart. I mean, she does so much stuff for her family that which most women her age would do. But she gets that stern nature. She loves you, but she's maybe not as much as Teddy, but she would love you through it. Teddy would kind of kick you through it.
He would.
Love and hate.
He had this underbite. He'd bring it up, and you're like, oh no,
So kind of touch on because a lot of people and these guys probably don't know mine your history. Chad was actually at my wedding.
I was.
He was at the front row. We got pictures of Chad, and there was like 3, maybe 4 of you guys from my team
from
that
his
was there.
team. Yeah.
And just from that point on, and me and Mark's always known each other since years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But I've always had like a connection with
with the family,
with some way or another. Whether it be through coaching or just playing ball or just interacting there. But so I've always been close enough to the family that if Chad was doing something, I would know about it. Right. And I'll be like, how can I help or whatever. And Teddy was always, he said this to me. He's like, he's got to help yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of get there. You finally did say, enough's enough. I'm gonna have to help myself.
Yeah. Well, what happened was when I was in college, I ended up getting a muscle irritation on my hamstring. So they sent me out to Norton Hospital, and they gave me some Lortab or something like that. And then went back to the went back to the dorm room, and I stuck them up on the dresser. And this guy that I played ball with came in there and saw him. He was like, "Hey, bust you a few of these, drank you a few beers, and it'll be the best feeling you ever had." And one thing I can say is, obviously at that time, and I hope Guy has now, but he's never found the Lord, because that was honestly, there's no high like the Most High in my eyes. And I never felt as good as what I have, since I asked Jesus Christ to come in my life.
Amen.
Yeah.
And but during that time, so I done what he said, and then after that I got hooked. Then through the oxy pandemic or epidemic, I got on those. So at that time I was transitioning, through college. I was bouncing around. I went to Hurley, I went to Richlands. The whole time I stayed in college was what was crazy. Ended up getting my bachelor's degree was what was insane about it. And even made the dean's list a couple times on the way. But I was always living this kind of secret, dark life, which it wasn't as secret as I thought it was. But I was living that dark life, and definitely wasn't living the path that the Lord had for me. I definitely veered off. Which honestly, I always grew up thinking I was going to do things my way. I wanted to do this. I wanted to be the coach. I wanted to be a teacher. I never did ask the Lord what He wanted me to do at that time. But He's got a good way of getting to you eventually. So, then all that happened. I finally got my degree or whatever, got teaching, all that stuff, and everything just kind of caught up on me, man. Eventually somebody's going to ask you to take a drug test, and that's what happened. At the Buchanan County Public Schools, and I left and went. That's when I went to the Virginia Wilderness Institute. And what was crazy was, even though I was battling addiction stuff through that time, and I felt like I was serving a purpose because I was with those kids during the day and really pouring into them. And even though I might not have got no sleep the night before, I stayed there for 3 years until January the 11th of 2009. By that time, we had to send all of our kids back to the Department of Juvenile Justice because they was closing the Virginia Wilderness Institute. So the next day, we was going to I was supposed to put the locks on the doors, and we was closing up because we was up there cleaning up everything because the kids was already gone. And then Dad died. I was supposed to be going to Pennsylvania to take this job as a teacher at one of those wilderness institutes in Pennsylvania. And then Dad passed away, and at that time he was the voice of the rebels. He was. That's right. I don't know if he started the rebel yell, but let me get a rebel. I have to admit, he might have been one of the first.
I actually wrote a song about your dad.
Man, if y'all ever get an opportunity, I love that.
I seen it tomorrow, but that was maybe 6 months after he passed away.
Beautiful song. I mean, I cry every time I listen to it. I literally
appreciate that. But he was if you knew Hurley sports, and especially during that time, he was so. It's like now. You go up there and you hear how about a rebel yell. Even back then, it's like Teddy was the voice behind that mic. Mm-hmm. That now anybody that says that or says it's just an echo.
Yeah, and what's awesome about it is his nephew Danny Cooper Justice is doing it now, so that's pretty cool. He took over, after Dad did, but when he passed away, man, I was out of a job. It was weird. I couldn't go to Pennsylvania, because I just
didn't want to leave Mom.
Yeah, I wanted to be with Mom, and I pretty much moved in with her kind of after that, to stay with her because scared to death. But 9 months later, I was in rehab, so it didn't really help, anything for the first time. And it was a secular rehab, so got in there and just I came out the same person I was when I went in because I listened to the same music. I still cussed. I still, had my pants pulled down a little bit too far. I still living not right, but I was clean. But then eventually that wore off, and because honestly, I feel like everybody's got and don't want to be weird, but everybody's got a God-shaped hole in their heart, and if you can't fill it with anything else because that place is there for God. And it's very, and if you try to use drugs, it just ain't gonna work. Women, just not gonna work, But once you put God in there,
you try to fill it with other things.
Yeah, it's like you're always like this, and then you can just breathe.
It's temporary.
It is. Everything else is temporary. But so that happened, and I went through a million different jobs and stuff, and just never could
So how long was you in Teen Challenge?
I was in Teen Challenge for a whole year. Greatest thing of my life. Found myself in a little bit of trouble. Nothing I couldn't get out of, but but it gave me the opportunity to go to this place called Teen Challenge and in Princeton, West Virginia. I'll never forget. I rode up on there on November the 12th of 2012. And I got out there, and these people hugging me and loving on me. I was like, "What in the world?" I was like, "What are these people doing?" They were smiling and stuff. And when you're in hard addiction, you're not smiling. You're just not happy.
Yeah.
You're miserable, and the world just don't look right to you. And and then, man, I was like, gosh, I want what they got. I thought they was giving them something there. I didn't know, but it wasn't. They was feeding God into them, and they was
giving them something.
They gave us a Bible, and they told us to get in it, and then they taught us Scripture. I got to stay there for 365. I'll count it as a privilege now. I got to spend 365 days in the Bible. Not many people get to do that.
No, sir.
Not many people has that opportunity to just, hey, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to have 3 classes about Scripture.
Wow.
Such a cool thing. And let me tell you how God worked during that time. I didn't know what I was going to do. It's a year-long program, so you got a lot of nights to sit and think about what you're going to do when you get out of here. And then while I was there, I tried out for choir. And can't sing. They told me that. And did not make it. But they said, hey, we got an evangelism team, so you got a gift for God. But let's go try that for it. But anyway,
sir.
But they knew the choir was coming to Grundy one day, so they was like, well, don't sing. Do not sing. But you can go there and give your testimony. And I said, fine, yeah. So I let Mom and them come, Mark and everybody. It was at Tuckland. And I met this man named Jerry Ward.
Oh, yes.
So I met him there. And me and him hit it off. And he was like, when you get out of here, man, I'm always doing something. I could use your help. And so as soon as I got out, he was one of the very first people I called. And, me and him, I was with him 24/7. We was doing backpack blessings. We was going to different places. And I was giving my testimony while he ministered and just spending a lot of time with him. And then I got out in November of... I went in on 2011. I got out in 2012, and in February of that next year, his son-in-law got killed in a mining accident and stuff, and his little daughter was probably about 3 at that time. So Jerry had his granddaughter with him all the time, and me and her, we kicked it off. We just had a bond. I don't know what it was, and
it was God.
It was God. It was really God, and I fell in love with her. So Jerry's daughter calls me one day, and she says, I just want to thank you for being so good. My daughter, she's going through so much, and you're being such a light to her, and all this stuff. And then, what's crazy? I ended up marrying that girl,
And still with her today.
Yeah, still with her today. And that little girl that I fell in love with, she calls me daddy, and, I got a grandbaby, which is, gosh. But that tells you what God does. He just kind of works it out for you.
You was throwing him dates out there, and I'm thinking about things. So it's like Teddy passed in 2009.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct here, it was the summer of 2010, I guess, that Tyler and the boys had their accident in North Carolina.
Well, no, this was...
And then the stuff that you've went through. So over like a 4-year span there, your family as a whole went through quite a bit.
It was a lot, so much.
Could you imagine what your mother went through?
She is a praying woman, so
she's a wonderful.
She stayed up all night crying and praying for me, and there's nothing stronger than a praying mother. I'll tell you that much. Even when she couldn't see it, or even when the world and I couldn't see it, she was still praying for me, and she knew that God could do it.
Yes.
So you hear all these people, and we grow up in Buchanan County, and there's a lot of addiction problems and things like that. And I wish we had a lot more for that, more faith-based programs around here, but. What people don't understand is, you hear all this, there's just no cure for addiction, but, there is God. God can take that from you, and as long as you're serving Him, then you won't go pick up pill or anything like that. As
No
long as
matter
you're-
what that addiction
Yeah.
is, whether it
Don't
be
matter-
drugs, alcohol, or
Yeah.
or
Whatever.
just whatever it may be.
There's so many gambling. I mean, there's just so many. Gaming nowadays. Some of these kids, man, is having a lot of issues with
Yes.
functioning in society because any kind of things that are taken from your daily life and affecting you, it could be used for. But God can change all that.
You remember what you told me? This was probably, I'm going to say, 9 months. It wasn't quite a year after you done the Teen Challenge. It was before the Generation United we did. And I asked you about the Teen Challenge, and you're like, and you just spoke on about that void that we try to feel it. God, only God can feel it. And
Exactly.
you told me something. You said it's the most real thing I'd ever done. I was like, what did you mean by it? And I even asked this, what do you mean? He said, everything else, your friends and all this can be fake. He said, these people were legit,
That's
real.
legit.
They loved you.
Yeah.
They were stern.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they all shared was the love of Christ Jesus.
Right.
And that's what they knew, that they could instill that in you.
Yeah.
Everything else would fall into place.
It would. And they was honest, and the Bible's honest. The Bible's as real as it gets. Look at Job, what that man went through. There's trials and tribulations that you're going to go through life, and you've got to handle those.
Yes.
The old mindset I had was, oh me, I'm going through this, so I need to feel better, or I need to do something for me, but when you get that servant attitude and stuff, and you're looking at your family, and there's people that's counting on you and stuff, hey,
Yeah.
well, Dad can handle it, but I've got to do this. I got to follow this path, because the Bible tells you everything. It teaches you how to be a dad. It teaches you how to be a husband. It teaches you how to be a friend, a neighbor, and
Yes.
it's basic instructions
something-
before leaving Earth. That's what I
There's
say.
something in there for every aspect of our life,
Every
anything
single
that we're going through.
It does. It really
Well,
does.
Chad, I'm so blessed just to know you
Oh.
and know your story.
Yeah.
I've known your story for a long time, and I'm so glad that you've helped a lot of people with telling your story.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall, and when a lot of people falls, man, it could be
They don't
a lot
get
hard.
back up.
They don't, because it's sometimes a lot harder to get back
Yeah.
up.
Where you're at now in your life with, a lot of people may not know you work for the Virginia Mountaineer. And I said this, and I didn't say it because I like you, and I mean, you know me. If I,
Yeah,
I
you're
I
honest.
say what's on my mind,
That's
and a lot
the
of time it gets me in trouble. And if I'm wrong with that stuff, I'll come back and apologize. I'll eat crow and come back and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But in this, I really sincerely mean it. I think that you don't get enough recognition for what you do for the paper. Now, we're not just talking about sports.
Yeah.
You go to a lot of these board meetings. You go to a lot of these things that, and plus, people say, well, he's just like the paper guy. No, you've got a family.
Yeah.
You've got a wife. You've got kids. You got grandkids.
Yeah.
You've got all this other stuff outside of that work that you do. But what you still bring to this system we have in place now with the Mountaineer and like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
You do so much for these kids to get the word out. And I remember years and years ago, Lloyd Combs, done the article, and he had a little article about you in there, and but he mentioned you as being Mark Cooper's little brother.
Yeah.
And now to seeing what Mark is, the principal, and at a high school, and now you're doing your thing, which I really absolutely love, reading your articles and what you're doing. But I think that anybody that sees you out that has a kid playing sports, that you always give recognition where it's due. There's no oversight there. And you're honest about it. Yeah. But I think that these parents and these fans, they need to, come up and thank you. And I know you don't want that.
Definitely.
I know you don't, but I just think that for you coming on here, giving your testimony, and there's other things. There's a lot more to this. Yeah. We could literally spend hours talking about the things that God's brought you through, blessed you with, and
Amen.
And continually doing. And I look and I see now, watch, the new school coming.
Oh man.
And that's what we had talked about with Michael and with Tim, is that it's, you're going from 3 schools, and then we're going to cut down to, basically one program, per whatever season's in.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's still not for you. I mean, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're still going to be traveling, bouncing, and we rely on one another. I think
Exactly.
I'll hit you up, say,
I
you got
love
these
it.
stats, or Michael will do it, team will do that.
And gosh, you all are gathering that stuff too. So you all been so great to help me out too.
Well,
And I really thank you all, man, for doing this, because like you hit the nail on the head. Really, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
If we could say something that's a college coach can say, wow, what now? Who's that kid? And get them some interest and or get them helped out, or just anything to make them have a good day when they see their name in that paper, or hear.
I think back, and this is weird that you're in the position you're in now. Do you remember like going to basketball practice on just a random evening during the week? Well, actually, not just any evening. Let's say it was Wednesday evening, and I would go over to the village store and I'd get the paper. JV would be practicing. We'd be flipping through her. I'm like, hey, look, y'all in the paper this week, or hey, you're in the paper this week, and you know how exciting that would make you be.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Even if it might be a picture of you going for a layup and getting blocked by somebody, you was in the paper.
Well, if he was going in, he was probably getting blocked.
100%. Yeah, I didn't like going in there with the big guys, but one of my favorite pictures from the paper is me watching somebody from Garden going in for a layup. But they had a great picture of me standing behind there looking up. But
standing there.
I think that was a picture of LD, I believe.
It might have been.
Yeah.
You probably seen that. That was a great picture.
Andy was playing defense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember seeing the picture. Yeah.
Chad, on behalf of all the athletes in Buchanan County, I want to personally thank you for the time that you put in for all athletes. It's just not each school. It's for all athletes, because you touch on every athlete at every school one time or another. And I want to greatly say, man, thank you for doing that. And not counting the other things that you write up, the IDA boards, the PSA board meeting,
I mean,
school
he's
board
always
meetings,
7 days
board
a week.
supervisors.
He sent me an interesting picture one night. I asked him, I said, you got like a man cave or something to work in or whatever. And apparently he's got like one of these storage buildings or whatever.
Yeah.
And he showed me a computer here where the board meeting was playing. The Florida State game was on in the background. And here he is with this computer going and, writing an article. But
I think right now in our county, we're in a good place. It's probably as good as it's been when it comes to broadcasting, and with just sports in general. And I said this to Rodney, is that Frank's Breaker was like who I grew up listening to. And it was only because I wanted to see if school was off when we called off on the snow day. But now with the way Rodney does the coffee pot shows, all of his stuff that he does, he makes, and I see some of his question of the day stuff, it makes it exciting. But I think we've got such a good mixture. In this county, it doesn't have a whole lot to offer kids as they grow older. Yeah. But for us older guys that's used to that history, and we see, you guys take up kind of the anvil kind of thing and going with it, but not just going with it, making it better.
Yeah, you're 100% like with Rodney, WMJD, man. Thank God for them, and I know Tim and them, they do such an amazing job. And man, Rodney's voice at these ball games, PA, I'm pushing for him to be the voice at the new school. Man's great, I'm telling you, unbelievable. Enjoy it.
We got to get Coach Cooper and get that.
Yeah, no, right. But we got a lot of good PA guys in this area, he would be. He'd be one I recommend too.
We need Rodney on when they do let him speak on the NFLS or whatever.
Yeah.
Voiceover.
Yeah, exactly. Some schools can
voiceover.
get that. But we do. You all bring that to YouTube now, and this is always going to be here. That the interview that you had with Jacob Ray, multi-sport athlete. That kid, I mean, he's going to be up there at state. He will make it state this year. That's barring any kind of crazy injury or whatever. Yep. But Sophia Belcher, unbelievable athlete. You all are, that stuff's going to be documented forever. Kind of like with the stuff with the newspaper and then with the radio. They're just broadcasting these games from people that can't get to it. We've got a good mixture of stuff.
And that's what I thought when they had the Garden Green Dragons here 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How many generations? I mean, the internet's going to be here.
Yeah.
You can go back now, and I'm going to tell you what, that was an motion field broadcast.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you got to see all of it or not,
Not
but,
all of it,
but there was several of them broke down a few times talking about their memories and stuff.
we've got to do things now because there's some kids that don't know about Whitewood, don't know about Garden, and there's going to be a generation that don't know about Grundy.
Right.
You believe that? That's going to actually happen. That's why I've been really lobbying for Buchanan County Sports Hall of Fame of a building that we can take all these banners, all these trophies, and put it in one central place. And because if not, by the end of this year, which players or former coaches and stuff, people's going to be grabbing that stuff.
Someone don't catch it in time, some things will be thrown in the dumpster out back.
There's trophies right now, I guarantee that was from the old Garden School or whatever in Whitewood that is gone. That will never be able to replace.
Something that we've been lobbying for here, and you may have heard it, is that the new press box, we feel like it should be named after Lloyd.
Oh well, yeah, that would be such.
And you've got the year of Mark Cooper there.
Yeah. Lloyd Combs probably helped more athletes get into college from Buchanan County than any coach ever.
You've said before.
Any coach ever.
Yeah.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know this about Lloyd, and I think you're a lot on the same page of that because you have played the sports and you see what it takes to put in that. But Lloyd would always. Yeah, he would make a write-up for somebody maybe who scored the most points or maybe had the most rushing yards. But he'd be the first to tell you that you had to have those utility players before any of that is possible.
Exactly.
And he was huge on those players that didn't really get the spotlight. That's that Lloyd Combs team that he'd always put out there.
Love that. Who's the biggest hustler on your team?
Yeah.
Let's give him recognition. And those linemen. Come on, I was a lineman. You know what I'm saying? I was a lineman, so I know those guys.
And that's one thing that, and we've not spoke on this on the podcast yet, but it's just been something that we've talked about ourselves. And it's all going to happen whether or not we can get funding for it. We have plans on wanting to put together an end of the year thing to where we give like a Player of the Year award to every sport. A male and female athlete of the year, and something in honor of Lloyd to give to an athlete, like a Combs Award, I guess you could call it, to give to that one player that maybe he's out there hustling every day, and maybe he doesn't always get the recognition he deserves. And it can be from any sport.
That's why you had two right there that would be very good nominees for it.
So
it's not because they are that mentality. But Jacob's going to put 20 or 30 on whoever they're playing because he's just that good of a scorer. And Sophia is too. She's going to get you close to 20 and but she's definitely going to get you more than 10 rebounds and deflections and steals.
She's a fighter underneath
She's
that.
a fighter. I love that.
Yeah. So it's what Mike spoke on there. It's not if, it's we're going to do
good.
it.
Yeah, speaking into existence, good. Anything I can do to help you out, because guys, man, y'all are doing an amazing job. The people that you're getting on here, like I said, it's such a good time that you're doing this too, because a lot of these guys are getting older. Some of these coaches and stuff like Coach Rife, he wouldn't tell you that, but he is getting a little up.
I was really glad that he was there and everything.
Mark Hackney loved that. That was a great.
Mark was great.
Hey,
Mark, he needed that too.
I remember when I played JV, and not a lot of varsity coaches do this. He would come to our games and sit up in the bleachers and watch. But I played for that man. I tried to perform on the field because I knew he was up in there, and I respect him. And
I think that's a necessity.
Yeah. There was one.
Coaches need to be watching.
Yeah. There was one thing in that interview with Mark that I didn't correct him on, but I thought, well, no. But he was talking about Powell Valley and how he knew they'd make it to the state that year, and they did. They actually didn't go that year; they went the year after. Yeah. But nevertheless, the teams that he's put on the field, I mean. Bullseye, I'm telling you,
hard note.
And I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from the coaches that's before him. He took the same teams and done, 360.
What was pretty cool about that, I got the inside. I rode those buses with those guys. Those 92, 91 teams, I was their ball boy. So, I made sure that those balls was dry every single night. I'm telling you.
I played against them.
Hey, I put work in on that, buddy. And that was back when initiations was going on. So I'll never forget I got initiated.
Can't use the word haze no more.
No, you can't use the word haze. But I had a really good time, with Big John Potter and Tommy A and Tomboy and I got to see those guys and that they was really big influences to me too. But Coach Coach Hackney made sure that, I always had a hat and a shirt. And,
Yeah.
me and
good.
Weasel.
Yeah.
Weasel
No
and Diesel.
Weasel.
Right?
No
So that's what I told Coach Hackney. I said, Coach Hackney, when you came on, you started a trend, weight room.
Yeah.
Weight room.
They got into
weight
it.
room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Big
when they
Red,
really
them,
hit the
they-
weight room.
Steve
sure.
Justin. Yeah.
And
hey,
still
they,
do it now. And it was hard-nosed football.
It
When you
was.
got hit, you got hit.
when you come to the cliff, that was the mindset
That
we
makes
had.
every football team.
Yeah.
I mean, really does that.
Hear
The
those-
off season.
You could hear those pads popping back in.
Every year, usually about that last issue when school goes out, I'm saying right now, I always kind of throw something in there about these athletes. Hey, this is where it starts right here. When you step foot out of those doors, what are you going to do? And people can transform their bodies over a summer. They can transform their game. They can work on
Because your body is already transforming anyway at that
so
age.
at that age, and so when you drive by these tracks and these courts and stuff, who you see out there? I love like Keyston Harford. Man, it's very rare you don't see him running around. And Caleb Ellsworth stuff was like that.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Jesse,
Jesse
about running
Looney.
over her.
I would have liked to get Caleb in here.
Yeah, that Caleb.
One of the best kids you could ever possibly be around.
I'm telling you, I would say this right here, that Caleb Ellswick is why cross country and track is where it's at right now. When that guy came on and in his American flag shorts and he started, had a flyer with him, and he had glasses and he had a swag about him, and he was getting out there and beating people bad. Other kids started seeing that, and then right after him, you had Keeson come in. Then Jesse was there.
Yeah, you're going to see that for like years down the road, and then they're going to set a trend as well.
That Woodford girl, Kaylin Woodford over at Hurley right now.
That's right.
She's an 8th grader.
That's right.
She is winning these middle school meets out of
tough.
here. So, you got to think she's going to be a freshman next year, So we've got, and Caleb Ellswick, I think he could have been a big Jesse,
Looney.
Jesse Looney was a big
State
inspiration.
champion, both of them state champions.
Yeah. So
for sure.
I got a big question I got to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot. And I hope Mark hears this, because I want to know his reaction too. You in your prime, Mark in his prime. Now, I know you all have had some backyard battles. I know it. Who comes out one-on-one?
Well, basketball, I think he would get me. Yeah.
I would have never said that. I don't care. I would have lied. There's no way I would
I
have
felt like
said
I was a
that.
better football player than he was, though.
Well, yeah,
And tennis.
Well, now, I would love to get that question answered by Tyler and Austin.
see, Tyler don't care. Tyler hated basketball.
Tyler's the better.
But he'll tell you
player.
he was the best.
One of the best. Well, listen to this. And
Tyler was the better
it's hard to
basketball
believe.
player.
I'm going to tell you the turmoil that happened there. And Teddy was like, I remember being in the cafeteria because we would feed the kids, the boys. I think it was either the district tournament that year or it was a Christmas tournament or something Mark had put on.
Best hospitality house.
And it was. And Mark and Tyler had been into it like 2 or 3 days before that. And a kid, this is a true story. Tyler got so mad, he quit. He threw his jersey. I
remember you telling this story.
He quit. And I'm like, and I had no idea what was going on, and I was getting ready to go into practice. And Connie was livid. She comes looking for it. Like, where's Mark at? I don't know what's going on here. So later on, Bebo was telling me the story on how Tyler quit. I said, well, he'll come back. He said, man, I don't know. He's pretty mad. Well, this was several days later. Of course, they did make up and, whatever. But I remember Mark was so mad at Tyler. And Tyler really didn't. His best sport was football.
Yeah, before he got hurt.
He's like, he just done basketball because everybody else did it, and he was good at it. But I remember Mark and him was into it. Poor Austin just like laid back. He didn't say nothing to nobody. He's Connie.
He's Connie.
Yeah.
Well, until Connie gets mad.
Well, and so I'm in there and helping Tiny and some of them getting some stuff together for the hospitality room. And I remember Teddy in there, and Tiny trying to talk to Teddy. Teddy was mad not at Tyler. He was ready to, he's like, I'll just take my belt off. And I thought he was talking about whipping Tyler. And I'm sitting there and Tiny says,
Grandbabies.
she's like, Mark's too old for that.
Grandbabies. We know about
Grandbabies. We all four right here know about grandbabies.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Tyler and Austin was there. I'm telling you. And then, my daughter Cameron came, so we finally got a girl and that dad, and it was crazy, bro. But yeah, Tyler and Austin, they was just so funny because they were totally opposite. But they gelled well together on the court, and then you add Dustin to the mix, and then some of the role players. That was a great group that we had.
It gelled together very well.
And I honestly think though that back in my day, the
district was harder.
It was tougher. It was.
It was.
Tougher.
Oh yeah.
We would beat these Class 2 teams. When I was at Hurley, we beat Grundy. When I was at Hurley, we beat Tazewell Graham. We'd beat these.
And that's when you played them big schools.
Yeah, but we'd finish third in the district.
Mark's senior team when he was a senior in high school, and this is just from a fan perspective. I still think is the best team to ever come through Hurley.
Wow, I really feel like that.
If you look at their roster from top to bottom and who they had to play, I think they could have beat Tyler and Austin's.
I think
by
so
20.
too. Yeah,
and they ain't gonna say that.
They ain't gonna say that.
But after you got past the probably 7 players that Hurley had that was rotating players when Tyler and Austin played, those other kids wouldn't be able to see the pressure.
And you know what? I feel like that the best team that possibly from Buchanan County history was the council group with Neil, with Mike Ratliff, with the Presleys, that group. Now I'm telling you, I loved going watching their games.
I know
they could shoot from anywhere on the court. They had that inside presence, and honestly, I feel like barring Knuckles, they was better than the 01 team that won the state.
Did you ever hear the podcast that I forget the names now? The Southwest Virginia Hoops podcast that they did with Brad.
Yeah.
And they asked Brad that question, which team. Brad said they could.
Yeah. That group.
Of course, when they had Neil on, Neil said they could.
Neil.
Man, it's been a great pleasure to have you on here, man. It's been awesome. I'm so glad you came.
I encourage everybody, man, check y'all out. Like I said, this is another opportunity to get the,
I'm so proud of you as a person.
For sure.
Where you came from, where you're at now, man, I'm so proud of you.
I know a lot of times it's not easy to speak on things as you have today, and I really appreciate you, giving your testimony because who knows what they might be someone of a similar circumstance as you that's out there right now.
There's a way.
It don't matter what family you come from, it can happen.
That's right.
Whether you live.
There's always a stereotype there. Oh, well, he's from a drug family, or you know that family or something. It doesn't have to be that way.
It can happen, and there's resources out there. We've got living free programs in the county. We've got faith-based programs in the county, Celebrate Recovery. So but there's honestly, it's easy to tell that story when you're sitting. When you're, where you're at, when you got the Lord in your life, and He's got His arms wrapped around you, and you feel so much comfortable, But
it's hard to tell it when you didn't have Him.
It was,
yes, sir.
So you got the new school coming up next year, and we're all looking forward to, seeing that jail and everything coming together. I mean, you're like everybody. We hate to see anything come to an end that we've got such, historical value to us individually, but in the same sense, you want to see kids have better opportunities. And I'm not just talking about sports, but from your perspective, what do you see? Do you see, and I know we're talking apples to oranges when we're talking about sports versus education, but what do you see from your perspective?
Man, it should have been done a long time ago.
10 years
ago. The location is not ideal. I'm from Hurley, so location is not ideal.
I think what a lot of people's got to realize is there's roads that are going to be made that's going to make this a lot easier.
With access up here is
by
going to be
like 27.
And Buchanan County's on the rise, people.
Yes,
we've got a lot of things going on right now that they don't even know, that people don't even know about. And, I can't even say but, we've got things that's going down that, that expectation that our school's going to be 500-600 kids, it's not going to be that way because, guys, Buchanan County's going to be moving up. And, the sky could be the limit, if we get a lot of these things that we're planning on getting and everything goes through and, our political leaders continue moving forward with a lot of this stuff, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But, the county's moving up here. I think a lot of people's getting on board now. Yeah. My mom was dead against Southern Gap High School. But now she's kind of excited about going the new opportunities and stuff. And, out of here, okay, guys, you go up in that school board office right now, and I go there every month for meetings, sometimes multiple times. They've got these pictures of all these former schools that was in Buchanan County over the years. They was a school every 5 miles.
That's right.
They have accommodated for Buchanan County
For
Public Schools for decades since we've been given public education. Okay, but out here they drive this stuff every day, you know, and it's not ideal, and it is going to be a little bit long, but it's going to happen. It's going to get easier. Things are going to get a lot better, and I'm telling you, I feel like with everybody under one roof, people's going to stop getting that mindset of
not having to go to the vocational school for advanced classes.
We're from Hurley, we're from Grundy, but they're going to have that. We're from Buchanan County.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Buchanan County pride.
It's going to be more Buchanan County focused, and I feel like we're going to flourish.
So, do you think it's okay that, or do you feel like that it's a necessity to have? And I do. I think it's a necessity to have the 8th graders in the mix because of our middle school program.
Yeah. You know,
I think that needs to be done, but
and I think
and junior varsity as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it will. I pretty much think it will eventually, but it can't at this moment.
Can't right first.
It can't because of some funding issues.
Yes.
Okay. So it just can't right now, but it will.
In a year or two, it might.
It will.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, there might be council might be there in a year or two. You never know. I mean,
I think it'll be a lot sooner than that.
It might happen, but. You know, guys, we've got some good visionaries. One person I think it does an amazing job is that Matt Fields, the executive director with IDA. I think he's got great. And then, you know, Tim, you're on that board, man. You know, you probably know more than any of us. But
big things are coming.
Big things are coming.
You won't get it out of them. We tried.
Well, yeah, you know, that's
kind of hard, ain't it?
Yeah, you know, but you know, you don't want to mess anything up. But it's going to happen, guys. You know, and then you look at some of these Southern Gap Middle School teams, how good they're doing.
Man, that middle school football's unreal.
Wow, right.
I'm telling you, they can beat some of these high school
Hey, I
teams.
don't know if like the year one we're going to be there,
But by 3, I think.
By year 3 or 4, and then you know, and more people's going to get that mindset coming. You know, we are going to lose kids, but it was going to happen anyway, guys. We're losing kids every month anyway. But when things start picking up, we're going to start gaining kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I feel like you know, some
Gaining kids and gaining families in the county.
Well, you know, there's
a lot of things getting ready to open up here.
There's a housing, you know, there's plans for housing development, mid-level things, you know, for.
And I mean, no matter how you feel about your community, and no matter how bad you badmouth up here on the hill, as they say, how much longer is people going to want to have to keep rebuilding their homes?
Yeah, they're not.
And getting flooded out and having a foot or two of mud in their homes. You know,
Your mom's been through it twice.
Your mom's been through it twice. She's right now. She's still, you know, underneath her house is destroyed with mud.
Oh my goodness.
You know, you can smell it coming up through. You know, but there's a lot of stuff that she can't do because waiting on some government funding to maybe try to help her out.
Yeah.
Don't even know if that's going to come through. She is still paying on money on the flood that happened in 01.
That's what I'm saying. She's on a fixed income too,
and
so
now,
she can't afford it.
You know, she actually had to go back to teaching.
Yeah.
And I think she's wanting to do one more year, so it kind of helped Mark when he comes up to the new school. But
Right.
Hey, but don't we got a good staff though? You know, you got Mark, you got Greg, Chad, Stevens.
I think it's going to
Tim
work
Bain's
out
going
great.
to be. Well, what kind of big asset we're going to have that vocational school right there on campus too. No more kids going to have to take a bus to go to the trade school. We're going to have, you know,
Unless you're council.
Yeah, unless you're council, they're going to be up
and
here.
then the whole school's going to be leaving every
You'll
day.
have 20 over there left,
And leaving 30 or 40 teachers at the school.
But there's going to be better classes that are going to be offered up here.
Yeah.
There's going to be
Technology.
equipment, technology.
Yeah.
Those kids, they're going to be proud when they walk through those doors on that first day.
Oh, yeah.
When you know, I hope they do.
There's going to be some changes for the teachers as well.
It
I
will.
just heard the other day that they changed the SOL testing.
It's going to be tougher.
Yeah, they made it to where the teachers are going to really. I mean, I've never liked the SOL testing. I think that it takes away from really good teachers to be able to teach the way they
Want to.
because each kid's different.
Yeah.
You know, but with a new coming up here, everything's new, and you know, a lot of the teachers may be, you know, known by a few students, but the other students are going to have to kind of get warm to them.
Yeah.
But the high side of that is that, you know, as well as most of us, when you go to college, it's the same way. When
It's the same.
I mean, you're going in there, everything's Greek to you, and
Exactly.
you've got to make new friends, you know, and that's really a positive thing for the kids that's going to be a senior next year.
I think so too. You know, it's going to be like a college environment, really. I mean, you look at the size of it, the you know, just how they're going to have to walk from one end of the campus to the other, you know, through the school. I mean, it's going to be that mentality. But you know, you go up to that vocational school right now, you have so many kids that go through there every day from Grundy, Hurley, and Twin Valley. When I walk through there and to do an interview with somebody or take pictures, you don't know which kids from where. They're all together, you
That's
know,
right.
they're already
Yeah.
in the together. The kids are going to be fine with this. Parents, maybe not so much.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're the ones
That's what we've
pushing
said.
back on it. But the kids are going to love it. And I'm telling you, right, when, like, for instance, Braden White at Twin Valley, how's it going to feel for him next year when he can go out there and be a football player and not have to try to carry a whole football team?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
He can go out there and play his position at corner, you know, maybe move to wide receiver or maybe even quarterback, whatever, you know.
That's
He's
right.
going to actually get to be a football player because, you know, he don't have to worry about doing 10 different jobs, 10 other jobs, you know. And, you know, same way with a lot of these kids at Hurley, you know, that has to play multiple ways and just, you know, now they're going to be able to focus. If I'm a defensive tackle and, you know, I can focus on being a
For
defensive
sure.
tackle.
That's something we've not had in the county for.
When was the last
many,
time
many
you ever
years.
seen a football staff that's got and I would call it an all-star staff.
Yeah.
When you look at what we've got coming into this county as the Southern Gap football staff, I mean, guys, about all of them are
Played college ball.
more than capable of being a head coach anywhere.
Yeah, and you know, and most of them will probably have head coaching experience.
Right.
Some of them will.
Yep.
And then, you know, after this next school board meeting, I think, you know, they
You're
might be
gonna know-
announcing all the other
Yes.
coaches.
The other-
So that's going to be pretty cool.
So on your final note,
October 13th, too, but one thing is October 13th, we're having the Cornerstone and Time Capsule dedication up here at Southern Gap High School.
Yep.
So, you know, got to invite everybody out to that. That's going to be a huge event. The Grand Mason Lodge is going to be out. They're coming all the way from up that way.
That's a huge
They
deal.
ain't ever been
It's a huge
past
deal.
Roanoke, I don't think. And but they're coming here. That they're in Monticello this past weekend. At, you know, dedicating Thomas, you know, Jefferson's place. Construction
That's
project.
awesome. Everybody
So-
come out October 13th for that.
Yeah, that is. The people can start coming in at
They're going to be at the
9:30.
school.
Yeah, it's going to be at
Yeah,
the school site.
Cornerstone.
Yeah, they're going to. The Virginia Mountaineer is going to be in the Time Capsule, one of this week's papers.
And it should be.
And a lot of different things so that, you know, the school, the guys. You know,
IDA be there.
yeah, they'll be there, and you know, I hope everybody comes out for that. Let's have that. Wouldn't that be amazing to see 1,000 people up here for that? That would
That's
be
very important.
It is
very important.
Yep.
They offering any free food?
I hope so. I hope some refreshments.
Your
but-
final thought about anything.
Buchanan County is on the rise. That's one thing I want to say, guys.
Good.
We got to be positive about things. You know, I know it's easy to be negative and stuff, especially when things are not going your way. Or, man, I struggle paycheck to paycheck. Trust me, I know that. But, you know, negativity can kill projects. Negativity can kill maybe a future business owner for coming into Buchanan County. So I just want to encourage everybody to stay positive, focus on the Lord, and you know, like the scripture says, you know, if my people are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray for their land, will heal their lands. Let's do that and pray for our kids. You know, we got. Golf
Pray for
season's
them.
already over, so there's going to be no more golf for Grundy, Hurley, and Twin Valley. So, you know, it's going to be different. Pray
for new beginnings.
New beginnings, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate
Thank
you
you,
coming
Chad.
on, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you being
We
here, brother.
appreciate it, man.
Love you,
Hey,
brother.
love you too, brother.
Yeah, hey, drop.